your traditional fan, because I seem to have erupted the ire of some of the trolls in the uh, collector world as well. Not enough hours in the day, lots of stuff uh, in the pipeline, figuratively and truthfully, more than I ever imagined. And I will say that there's some eyes on this show that aren't necessarily just your traditional fan, because I seem to have erupted the ire of some of the trolls in the collector world as well. So we're doing something right. We're getting people's emotions stirred up. So that's always a good thing.
Absolutely, yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Once you start getting the trolls, that's when you're kind of getting a little traction happening.
Well, I figure you're moving the needle. It's like it's not a good day if you haven't been called an asshole by at least a couple of people.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's amazing the times we live in where I've always been an advocate of free speech, and you don't certainly don't have to like everything about everyone and everything else, but somewhere in there, the humanity portion of it seems to go out the window, and it's smoke and mirrors, and you want to take things out of context and do things just to get eyes on you rather than really what's going on. And it doesn't matter whether it's politics or wrestling or people's personal lives. It's everybody's subjected to the same thing. So it's kind of interesting to navigate at 65. I can imagine the young people, just don't think twice about some of that stuff. But some of it's still abrasive to me, and just try to kind of find a way to find your way down your lane and not get off track about what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really the whole social media landscape is just there's a bit of like almost a disassociation with people where it's just like even interacting with people I've met before, and then my relationship with them online can sometimes be different. And it's almost like there's that separation of connection you make, that physical, or that tangible connection that you make with some people. And it kind of throws off the game. It almost desensitizes. I feel myself sometimes being desensitized by a lot of this stuff when it comes to human emotion and interaction sometimes. I don't know if you necessarily get that too sometimes, but it's just people post on Facebook. It doesn't resonate as much as when you're interacting with that person one-on-one or anything to that effect. Do you feel that way too, Magnum?
Yeah, I do. And I think the whole, I'm in the telecom world, and I've been in the industry for the last 30 years. So, I've been part and parcel of helping build the system that makes all this thing possible. But to your point, it desensitizes folks, and it also takes away that voice inflection you get when you have, one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball type conversations. And I find myself, many times in a text, whether it's professional or personal, either or, and just say, realizing, hey, I probably ought to just pick up the phone and talk to this person, because if I'm getting the wrong impression, it's a good possibility they could be too. And it just causes more frustrations than necessarily have to be. And I think it's kind of messed the whole world up on problem solving, because it used to be a time when we realized that none of us are perfect, and we're all trying to be better versions of ourselves as time goes on. But the ability to see past something that truly is past is kind of muddled now, because it's like anything can spark something to take something body back into a chain of conversation, something that might have happened 2 minutes ago, 2 weeks ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And people are constantly being, measured, not necessarily on the here and now, but, this perception that's been, capsulized in the media, the media world. And it's not a good way to measure people on their intent or where they come from or what they're desiring to do. And unfortunately, your human instinct is just to be defensive.
Right.
And I mean, I come from the day when you had a problem with somebody, especially when we were in the business. If you had a problem with somebody, I don't care how big, small, tall, didn't matter what it was, you went and got eyeball to eyeball with them and worked it out. And if that it turned into a physical solution or if it's a philosophical solution, either way, you came to some resolve and were able to, go forward. And you might still have some feelings, whatever, but it didn't keep you from being productive in your chosen field or whatever it was you were doing. So, I think that we got a group of people in general that have trouble communicating and problem solving and just navigating life because they're so used to either on a text or on a keyboard or whatever and feel like if they're not able to validate themselves through those means, then then they're somehow a lesser than, and nothing can be farther from the truth. All this should be a tool. It should be an asset. It should be a new means of not being able to cope, with life and things that we all had to navigate.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, you see how social media affects everybody's lives. I almost feel like there's a contingency too. And I think I'm definitely of this matter. I almost feel like social media, it's a way to promote yourself and it's a way to get word out about, and it's a way to connect to people too, friends or new people, things like that. But I almost feel like it should be a public utility in a lot of ways because it's so essential to like thriving, making businesses thrive nowadays, and getting a brand out there. Even something like this it's important to kind of do that. And believe you me, I know I need to be doing more with that when it comes across the board with all my podcast stuff. But like, I don't know. I wanted to follow up with this too regarding the social media. What would you recommend to a modern talent today that uses this as a vehicle? What would be your do's and don'ts necessarily when it comes to promoting yourself or your persona or even your company in that regard for
Well,
wrestling?
I think it's a real slippery slope because if you want to be, like talking to the smart marks and trying to be cool and letting them, kind of feel like they're in the know and seeing behind the veil and know what's going on in the inner workings of the business, that can be really detrimental to the
Hmm.
same perspective if you promote an opinion of something that is so radical, that is disruptive, that it becomes something that's a black eye to your corporate, your corporate sponsor, your employer, whatever. There's consequences to that today in today's time because people, they have people. I work for a Fortune 500 company. They have people that monitor those things. And if you were to be doing something that was considered bullying, it could endanger your ability to continue in your livelihood. Uh, could impact you when you're sitting at a job interview when somebody does a search on you and sees all the stuff that comes up. So it, to your point, it's a tool, but for the men and women that are out there, that the people that are superstars of the world, you're not you can't put just wear your heart on your sleeve about the ins and outs and everything else that goes on about the inner workings of your day to day life or your business life because it'll be detrimental to you. It's you shouldn't be living your eyes being measured like that daily if you're an entertainer or if you're a competitor in some sport or if you're a professional business person. That's there's things that are there are boundaries, and I think we've got a whole society of people that don't understand what's inside and outside the lines and what's okay and what's not.
Yeah, there are people kind of when you don't have to put a picture to your name or you don't have to put your name to a picture even. It gives people a little bit more freedom, and you're not seeing that person directly in front of you. It's you open yourself up to do like people if they don't are not socially active or out and about or anything like that. this is their way to socialize, and it's not a very healthy thing to do. It can be, like you mentioned, a slippery slope in regards to a lot of things. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It can be a great tool for wrestlers making videos and kind of getting a gimmick over, but it also, as a wrestler too, you do humanize yourself, which is in certain ways good, but in other ways bad, because you want that air of mystery sometimes when you're a wrestler. Like I know, like you think about back in the day, like the lights would only be focused on the ring, and there's a reason the ring is elevated, so people look up to these competitors in the ring, and it feels like there's that separation. And now social media creates that connection, which is good, but also bad in certain ways. It's definitely a balance for a wrestler to try to consider now in today's world.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is it's difficult to define that balance, and that you want to you do want to have that fan base, and you want them vested in your character and your passion for what you do. But doesn't mean that you need to bring everybody into your world and your locker room and how you do business. And can you imagine? Can you just imagine if back in the day when, oh my gosh, when life was so insane, nobody would have got past one weekend, much less a month of that type of thing, without being so lambasted for called out for every decision you made that was immoral, or just something that brought out the worst in everybody. Who knows? But I think about the cast of characters and just the absolute crazy group of people that we cohabitated with, and we figured out how to navigate this. We're in a room with 30, 40 people that are as volatile and different and eccentric, and some just backwoods, and some illiterate to some degree, and some very educated, and all of them very opinionated. Yet, we all, we figured our way through this thing, because at the end of the day, we wanted to perform, and
Yeah.
we wanted everybody that was talented to have that opportunity to be the best they could be, because it was a close knit circle. And I think a little bit of that today is the fact that the territory system obviously got wiped out, and there was niches all over the country in that territory system. But the indie world that popped up out of necessity, mother of invention, reason, you know allowed a lot of people through the gate and the passage in that would have never got through that system as it was, even in the territory days. There was just there were certain criteria that you had to meet to get in the door, and there's so much of a different breed, as a result of it just exposed more and more elements of people that haven't all had to come through the ranks the same way, and jealousy, and there's only so many positions, and there's only so much opportunity. Has always been the thing. I mean, you think about it, going out and saying I'm going to be a superstar in the WWE or for the NWA back in the day, you might as well have come out of high school and said, I'm going to go walk on and play for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty fair hand. I think I could go play for the Bears. And you had to you had to crack that code and make your way into that deal, and everybody had to find a path, but it wasn't as open of a gate as it became. And some great talent has come about because of those opportunities, but there's also a lot that would have got weeded out, I think very quickly, if they'd had to hold court, with the Undertaker or Bruiser Brody, or somebody that might not be quite as diplomatic as their little soft skin would want.
Well, yeah, it's a completely, like, the egos are involved, and there always will be. But also it was a different kind of attitude where, like, yeah, you had to be kind of more thick skinned and like kind of just looking out for yourself, but also looking to make money. The intentions were different. I think a lot of people think, and this is across the board with society, I think they are owed a lot of things, or they deserve a lot. And, certain things like that come into play where it's just like you get raised in this thing and things seem like a bigger deal when they're on social media, when like X, for example, that's only like 20% of the population, I think, is like what I've heard before. And so you're not really getting the actual reality of things and what the group thought is and everything to that effect. And I think a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, and then even turn businesses, like, take that into account a little bit more seriously than they should. And they don't weather the storms and everything like that. And yeah, it's a really it's a crazy thing to kind of consider when all this comes into play. How, Magnum, do you think your 20-something, 26-year-old self would have handled social media if you were in the if you were in the thick of this action at that time?
I'm sure if diplomacy has always been the deal, and the political the political things that we navigated made this stuff pale by comparison. I mean, in 1983, I worked a main event match with Hacksaw Buzz Sawyer in the New Orleans of the Superdome when I was a North American champion. I hadn't seen him since he had done some not so wonderful things to me that had a bad financial impact on not only me but my family. And and when Bill Watts booked it, he knew that for for the business that I was going to go out there and do what it took to have a a world class match, which is what the people that bought a ticket paid to see. And did I was I looking forward to it? Was this one of my fondest moments? Absolutely not. But I went out there and put in 20, 25 minutes with a guy that I wouldn't have spit on if he was on fire, and and did what it took, and didn't disrupt the world, and we all went on to work another day, him somewhere else, and me somewhere else. So it's just that's sometimes you just got to put on the face and do the deal, and and be a professional, and that goes in all walks of life. Sometimes we just have to do things that isn't exactly our first choice, but we do try to do it with dignity and professionalism, and go on to the next thing and take care of business.
Yeah, it's that's it. Like, I was talking to Rob RVD, and I believe somebody else too. You're gonna. Oh, I was just telling people on my other show, Rumor and Innuendo, like, you're gonna work with people you don't like working with. That's just life, and you have to kind of coexist and understand. Hey, this is a business, and what we're doing here, whether it's wrestling or whether it's in the a different kind of company or anything like that. You're just going to have to roll with the punches and understand the fact that, yeah, you're not going to see eye to eye with this person. You're not going to necessarily vibe with this person, but you're there to do something. You're there to do work. You're there to make money. And here it is, and a lot of people do not consider that. And, it's a big ongoing topic always now, it seems. Wrestling, there's always the politics coming into play, and, attitudes and egos and everything like that.